Cecil, it is Texas A&M week. I wanted to ask you about this series because when A&M came into the league and with what went down here in Tuscaloosa in 2012 and even back in College Station in 2013, we kind of all had the feeling that, wow, this is going to be the game perhaps to watch, not only in the SEC West, but perhaps the league in general moving forward. It hadn't kind of played out that way since, though, has it?
It hasn't, for a variety of reasons. A&M really hadn't. They've had some good teams. They hadn't really generated the Johnny football excitement that they had in the first 2 years in the league. They've had some decent wins, but they really, you'd have to put them certainly behind Alabama, LSU, and Auburn in the division. And I don't know, after those first 2 years, you'd probably put them ahead of Ole Miss and State, but they hadn't been better than Ole Miss and State every year.
No.
They weren't better than State last year. Weren't better than some of those Hugh Freeze Ole Miss teams. So it's been curious because the assumption has always been that even with Texas, even with Oklahoma coming in there, that they could get plenty of players, which they do seem to get plenty of players. I think that they've been a little bit caught in the quarterback quandary. You know, they've had a Heisman Trophy winner pass through. He just didn't end up being their quarterback. So that's been a little bit of it. Maybe Kellen Mond will, develop into that guy. But yeah, you can't say they've been bad. You just can't say they've really been good in that stretch post 2013.
How tough is it for Texas A&M fans on Sunday right now to watch two guys that we saw Alabama go against in 2015, I believe it was, and you alluded to one of them, Kyler Murray. You had Kyler Murray and Kyle Allen together. And look what Kyle Allen's doing right now in Carolina.
That's remarkable. He's been remarkable. And I would not have, the playing time that I remember Kyle Allen getting against Alabama, he was all over the map. He was, he had some struggles. And Kyler Murray at A&M, to me, I thought, man, what a great athlete and what a great baseball player he's going to be, but he's too little. Now I saw him again at Oklahoma, and he certainly convinced me he could be an NFL quarterback in that game. But yeah, it's just been unusual. The guys that have passed through, Nick Starkel, that passed through there at one point, and just hadn't quite clicked for him for whatever reason. Again, they've had talent. They've had Myles Garrett in there. I mean, they've had talented players. So, they've certainly invested in Jimbo being the one who's going to make it all come together at some point. And who knows? Maybe this is the week. Maybe this is the spark that they need to take off. Because it's not an entirely different arc. Had we been having this conversation 8 or 9 years ago about Clemson, and suddenly it all worked out for them. Got the right quarterback in there, got Deshaun in there, and all of a sudden things started rolling, and they've continued to roll. So who knows? They could certainly be as good as they want to be, or they certainly want to be good. So they certainly could be a contender. I think, given the facilities, given the geography. It's just a matter of the stars lining up for them, and you've got to win one, and then you win another one, and then you get in position like Clemson did, where you play for that championship and you don't win it, and you come back and you stay consistent, and that's what they hadn't been able to do, is stay consistent.
According to our pals out in the desert, Cecil, the total for Saturday's game in College Station, 59.5 points. That seems low to me. Is there anything that I'm missing with this Alabama team right now, both offensively and defensively, for different reasons, good and bad, to think that there won't be a lot of points scored in this game Saturday?
I think there will. But for one thing, well, there's a variety of ways. Both offenses are pretty good. I don't know how A&M's gonna keep Alabama from scoring 40, 30, 38, 40. So this is a game where there could be some scores in special teams. Both teams have good returners. Of course, Texas A&M, I guess, has at least arguably the best punter in the country, but sometimes those can come back on you too sometimes. So, I would say 60 was low.
Braden Mann, absolutely, the punter for Texas A&M, put on a fireworks show here in Tuscaloosa last year. All 5 of his punts against Alabama in 2018, 50 yards or more. He did a very nice J.K. Scott impersonation here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Let me ask you this, Cecil. We heard from Nick Saban yesterday. You were there. You asked Nick about some situations with this team. Biggest injury concern for Alabama going into Saturday, is it Chris Owens or is it Will Reichert?
I place a high value on centers, and they've got guys. They've got Dickerson. They've got Emil could play there, obviously. So, but if it's so I'm going to say center. But if it's 31-31 going into the fourth quarter, I'm going to switch my vote. How's that? Is that
you
fair?
Can do that.
Okay.
You can absolutely do that, Cecil. We offer. We're all open to flexibility there as real time is concerned in college football games. I'm not sure if you saw this morning or not, Cecil, but Dabo has he's got the rest of y'all bus. He said out of the shed during the bye weekend. Said he went out to the shed and he got the rest of y'all bus, Alabama and the rest of y'all. If you've heard, Dabo talk about in the past, that bus has got some miles on it. He's drove that bus pretty hard in the past, Cecil. Can he still effectively, push that narrative that it's little old Clemson and it's the rest of us in Alabama? He seems to be going back to it after that narrow win over North Carolina.
He certainly, has played that card until you can see through it. That's how many times he's laid it down on the table. So I don't know. It's hard to have it both ways. For better or worse, that's the one thing that never happens here. That's the one thing that never happens in Tuscaloosa. Nobody's ever going to listen to the poor Alabama dialogue. All-America linebacker goes down. The rest of the country is like, shut up, y'all got plenty of players, when referencing Alabama. Maybe that's what Dabo, needs. It's certainly what his fan base loves. I mean, that was even this summer, that all of that, oh my God, Clemson's not getting enough credit. That's all part of that poor old Clemson dynamic that even when they're great, even when they do something good, they just don't get any credit. And then as soon as they play a close game with North Carolina, they don't want any credit. They're just poor old Clemson. They're just, so I like Dabo. I understand the way he tries to motivate his guys. Just pick one. Either you're really good and you deserve a lot of credit for people to say you're the greatest college team ever last year, or you're not that good. But just pick one and go with that.
Dabo said he got an oil change in that Roy bus. It's ready to go. It seems like he changed
oil change,
windshield wipers
for retreads, that he bought down at the used tire shop. Probably got a battery that came out of a total, and off they'll go.
Cecil, have we gotten to a point in college football where balance on offense is almost viewed negatively? Because when we talk about perception of SEC teams right now, it seems like Alabama and LSU are a little bit ahead at least of Georgia. But when you look at Georgia offensively, Georgia's almost a 50-50 split right now, Cecil, when you talk about rushing yards to passing yards. Georgia through 5 games, 61 more passing yards than rushing yards, and a whole lot more rushing yards than either LSU or Alabama, which seems weird in and of itself. Are we at a point, though, in the game, or at least temporarily, where explosiveness, dynamic, those type of things, especially in the passing game, are weighted more heavily in favor of teams than if you're kind of viewed as Georgia as plotting? Although, again, 5 years ago, you'd look at Georgia and go, man, 250 a game running it, 260 a game passing it. That's exactly what you would want, right?
Yeah, it is. And Georgia's winning games with it.
Yeah.
And, Florida's still a little bit of a throwback. Part of their quarterback situation has been injuries. They've had different quarterbacks. But their offense is kind of pound and play defense and play special teams, and they've been winning that way. So who would ever have thought that the Florida Gators, the wheel would spin 180 degrees and Alabama would be flinging it everywhere to 4 little wide receivers, and Florida would be heavy on defense, run the ball, control the clock, be sound in special teams. So it's funny how times change. Now, there's a long answer that I still think that the probably most overlooked comment that Nick Saban has had in the first half of this season is when he was asked a similar question on the similar theme. And he talked about one of Ruggs' long touchdowns. He said there's only really 2 blocks that have to be made on the entire play. You just fling it out to him. You've only got 2 blocks. Alabama missed one of the blocks. Ruggs outran the guy anyway and scored a 75-yard touchdown. So it's a 75-yard touchdown drive that involves 2 blocks, one of which they missed, and they scored a touchdown. So do you do that, or do you try and, 12 plays, 75 yards, everybody's got to be precise? I mean, there's an advantage to both, but, that's where Nick said, throw me in that briar patch. Why am I going to spend hours and hours and hours and hours of practice time perfecting that grinded out offense and recruiting fullbacks and, big tight ends and having 2 receivers in the game or maybe 3 and only throwing it when it's fairly safe, that's a little bit of what Georgia does. The Prom doesn't take a bunch of shots. Got pretty good receivers, but doesn't take a bunch of shots. So which one's easier? Which am I going to do if I'm a head coach? So it's a fascinating thing. Why not get it out there to Ruggs, get it out there to Judy, make the defense decide that, okay, we got to double up these guys, and Devonta Smith goes for 275 yards.
Yeah.
If you've got a quarterback that can do it, why not do it? I think now a lot of places you couldn't put that much on the quarterback because you don't have an NFL quarterback. Just so happens that I shouldn't use the word NFL. That's a little different, but a prolific quarterback, which the teams at the top, Alabama, LSU, Georgia to an extent. Again, you can debate Jake Fromm. Ohio State, they've got a guy who can make those throws. I mean, people debate this, Travis, and I don't know where you come down on it. Alabama's got a 4th and 2. Would you rather see him run it, or would you rather see Tua in the shotgun only having to get 3-4 yards to one of those receivers?
I would rather see Tua in the shotgun because there's also that element potentially of Tua's legs. Not that he's Jalen.
Good, sure.
Not that he's, one of these more run-first quarterbacks, but with Tua in the gun and those receivers out there, if I don't have what I want initially when I'm throwing it, he's kind of like that point guard that you have in basketball where he can make a lot of wrongs right late in the shot clock, right?
Right, but it's also, you're putting that defensive coordinator at that poker table a little bit, and you're like, all right, we're not going to let them get these 2 yards. We're going to come right up on Judy, and we're going to come right up on Ruggs, and we're going to,
You can't double everybody. You can't double everybody.
You can't double everybody, and B, if you're going to play them that tight, what if Tua decides, he takes that one step forward and then decides he's going to go over the top? You're going to give up a lot more than 2. If he connects that, because that receiver is going to beat your guy down the field if he's lining up, a yard and a half off of him at the line of scrimmage.
And you can have that mindset because even if you don't convert that and it hurts you the other way, you feel like you can make it good the very next possession, and make it good not only the next possession, but maybe in less than 60 seconds with this offense,
Sure. So it's fascinating. And believe me, I've been a lifelong, 4th and 2, put that other tight end in there and hand it to Derrick Henry or hand it to Mark Ingram and slam it up in there. But, when you've got guys that are 75% accurate with their throws, I think the percentages lean to just throw it. Of course, the 4th and 2, the other 4th and 2 this year was get it to Najee Harris in South Carolina. And what does he do with it? Makes the guy miss, hurdles the guy, stiff arms the guy. And, that's a nice weapon to have, too.
You come up and you challenge those wide receivers.
Too. You got to cover that one, too, because you're going to have a back in the game probably back there. Even if Tua's in the shotgun, you're not going to be empty. And you got to worry about him, too.
You come up and you challenge those wide receivers. We talked about this in the box last week. And then a guy like Jerry Jeudy just runs man coverage totally out of the picture. And then you slip Najee Harris out in the flat, and you got nobody, right?
But, defenses can always take something away, but they can't take everything away. And that's football today, is finding out what they can't take away and taking advantage of that.
Cecil, as we let you go here, the night game came from the Southeastern Conference and the television partners.
It did, and I know there are people, and I have great empathy for fans who drive it, particularly for the Tennessee game. They're going to come from Huntsville. They're going to come from all across North Alabama. Huge game everywhere, but it's a huge game up there. They're going to come from Mobile. It's a late kickoff. Given the way the networks broke down, given what's on where, I understand why, rather than have it on the SEC network at 6, they want the number 1 team on ESPN at 8 o'clock. I get that. Again, it's not. This has never been.
This was about September, right?
Excuse me.
This was about September as much as anything, and really and one team seemingly having far greater pull at kickoff times.
Right. Everything I've said and written has been about 5 years worth of data and the next 5 years and the next 5 Septembers. But it should be a great atmosphere, even at 8 o'clock kickoff. If you can't, if it's not a captivating game and you can't stay for 4, we just won't tell Coach Saban. we just won't mention that. But I think it's great. I think it'll be a great atmosphere. The weather is out of the equation once you get into October. But I think that most fans, I don't know what the reaction on your show has been, but I think that most fans are just relieved that it wasn't another 11 o'clock game.
Oh, yeah. We did a poll, and over 1,000 votes. It's overwhelmingly. In terms of 11 a.m., the poll was strictly 11 a.m. or 8 p.m.
Right.
And just in those terms, the two extremes of the kickoff times, I think the fans are very excited about late night with the Tide coming up in a couple Saturdays. Well, Cecil, as always,
so
go ahead.
No, I was just saying I think so too. But what little contribution I have to it, my work is not done and will not be done probably until we see those early kickoff times that they give us in Destin.
Yeah, and that's really
how that goes.
When that drumbeat needs to pick back up. SEC spring meetings, SEC media days, and leading up to those early season kickoff times, because that's what I know you've been pretty much poignant about. It's the daytime kickoffs when they are just absolutely brutal, and how they very much.
You're going to get some, Travis. I just don't like to see one school get them all, and another school get none of them.
Right. Just mix in a few.
Just make it fair. That's all I have.
Absolutely. Well, Cecil, we appreciate it, my man. Always great stuff here with us. Always great stuff with the Tuscaloosa News and TideSports.com. Talk to you soon, Cecil. Thank you.